Good evening, everybody. It's your favorite aspiring classicist here, a wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same: spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. And today, we're talking about a very important topic. We're on chapter 8 of book 9 of the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle, and we're going to talk about self-love, or to love oneself. So let's begin. He starts by saying, the question also is raised whether one ought to love oneself or someone else most. We censure those who put themselves first, and lover of self is used as a term of reproach. And a term of reproach is like, it's used as to denigrate or to talk down to somebody. And it is thought that a bad man considers himself in all he does, and the more so, the worse he is. So it is a complaint against him, for instance, that he never does a thing unless you make him. Whereas a good man acts from a sense of what is noble, and the better he is, the more so he acts, and considers his friend's interests, disregarding his own. But the facts do not accord with these theories, nor is this surprising, for we admit that one should love one's best friend most, but the best friend is he that, when he wishes a person's good, wishes it for that person's own sake, even though nobody will ever know it. Now this condition is most fully realized in a man's regard for himself, as indeed are all other attributes that make up the definition of a friend. For it has been said already that all the feelings that constitute friendship for others are an extension of regard for the self. Moreover, all the proverbs agree with this. For example, friends have one soul between them. Friends' goods are common property. Amity is equality. The knee is nearer than the shin. All of these things will apply most fully to oneself, for a man is his own best friend. Therefore, he ought to love himself most. So it is naturally debated which of these two views we ought to adopt, since each of them has some plausibility. Now, where there is a conflict of opinion, the proper course is doubtless to get the two views clearly distinguished, and to define how far and in what way each of them is true. So probably the matter may become clear if we ascertain what meaning each side attaches to the term self-love. Those then who make it a term of reproach call men lovers of self when they assign to themselves the larger share of money, honors, or bodily pleasures. Since these are the things which most men desire and set their hearts on as being the greatest goods, and which accordingly they compete with each other to obtain. Now those who take more than their share of these things are men who indulge their appetites, and generally their passions and the irrational part of their souls. But most men are of this kind. Accordingly, the use of the term lover of self as a reproach, as a term that we use to talk down to people, has arisen from the fact that self-love of the ordinary kind is bad. So, let's be super clear here. Aristotle is saying that there are two types of self-love, one that's good and one that's bad. The bad one is the one that makes you want to take more than your fair share of money, honors, or other bodily pleasures. That would include food. Those things are bad to indulge in. And hence, self-love is rightly censured in those who are lovers of self in this sense. And that it is those who take too large a share of things of this sort whom most people usually mean when they speak of lovers of self is clear enough. For if a man were always bent on outdoing everybody else in acting justly or temperately, or in displaying any other virtue, and in general was always trying to secure for himself moral nobility, no one will charge him with love of self, nor find any fault with him. So, if you're the kind of person that competes on how to literally be a good person, nobody's going to say that you're a lover of self, even though that is a form of self-love. Yet, as a matter of fact, such a man might be held to be a lover of self in an exceptional degree. So it's not only a lover of self, but it's a lover of self in an exceptional degree. Yet, as a matter of fact, such a man might be held to be a lover of self in an exceptional degree. At all events, he takes for himself the things that are noblest and most truly good. Also, it is the most dominant part of himself that he indulges and obeys in everything. But, as in the state, it is the sovereign that is held in the fullest sense to be the state, And in any other composite whole, it is the dominant part that is deemed especially to be that part of himself, is a lover of self in the fullest degree. Again, the terms self-restrained and unrestrained denote being restrained, or not, by one's intellect, and thus imply that the intellect is the man himself. Also, it is our reasoned acts that are felt to be in the fullest sense our own acts, voluntary acts. So the acts that we think about and reason, those are the ones that most fully showcase who we are. It is therefore clear that a man is or is chiefly the dominant part of himself, and that a good man is or is chiefly the dominant part of himself, and that a good man values that part of himself most. Hence the good man will be a lover of self in the fullest degree, though in a different sense than the lover of self so called by way of reproach. So the good man will be a lover of self, but he's going to be a lover of self in a good way, instead of the bad way that we just talked about. From whom he differs as much as living by principle differs from living by passion, and aiming at what is noble from aiming at what seems expedient. Persons, therefore, who are exceptionally zealous in noble acts are universally approved and commanded. And if all men vied with each other in moral nobility, and strove to perform the noblest deeds, the common welfare would be fully realized, while individuals also could enjoy the greatest of goods, inasmuch as virtue is the greatest good. Therefore, the good man ought to be a lover of self, since he will then both benefit himself by acting nobly, and aid his fellows. But the bad man ought not to be a lover of self, since he will follow his base passions, and so injure both himself and his neighbors. So, the implication there is that good men should love themselves, but not bad men. With the bad man, therefore, what he does is not in accord with what he ought to do. But the good man does, since intelligence always chooses for itself that which is best, and the good man obeys his intelligence. But it is also true that the virtuous man's conduct is often guided by the interests of his friends and of his country, and that he will, if necessary, lay down his life on their behalf. For he will surrender wealth and power and all the goods that men struggle to win, if he can secure nobility for himself. Since he would prefer an hour of rapture to a long period of mild enjoyment, a year of noble life to many years of ordinary existence, one great and glorious exploit to many small successes. And this is doubtless the case with those who give their lives for others. Thus they choose great nobility for themselves. Also, the virtuous man is ready to forego money, if by that means his friend may gain more money. For thus, though his friend gets money, he himself achieves nobility, and so he assigns the greater good to his own share, because nobility is better than money. And he behaves in the same manner as regards honors and offices also. Also, these things he will relinquish to his friends, for this is noble and praiseworthy for himself. He is naturally, therefore, thought to be virtuous, as he chooses moral nobility in preference to all other things. It may even happen that he will surrender to his friend the performance of some achievement, and that it may be nobler for him to be the cause of his friend's performing it than to perform it himself. Therefore, in all spheres of praiseworthy conduct, it is manifest that the good man takes the larger share of moral nobility for himself. In this sense, then, as we said above, it is right to be a lover of self, though self-love of the ordinary sort is wrong. So if you are a good man, then you should be a lover of self. But if you're a bad man, you shouldn't be. That's my takeaway from that chapter. What are y'all doing in order to inspire, uplift, and empower your local community today? Because this world isn't changing unless we all do our part, and you can count on me to do mine daily. Until next time, I love y'all.